Hello, I'm Alan and welcome to the Guitar Shack. Today I'm going to be talking you through what I do to prepare for sale all my guitars. The one I'm going to be talking about today is this 2019 Fender Player Telecaster. Black guard and maple neck. In Mexico in 2019. It's got Fender branded tuners, it's got a Fender scratch bridge plate on the back. It's got part of the Player series that were updated from the earlier made in Mexico Telecasters. They've got a more accurate body outline to the original Telecaster shape. They've also got a pair of Alnico 5 pickups which sound pretty good. And this one I've had for a year or so, and I'm prepping it before selling it on. So fundamentally what I do with any guitar that I sell is to put it in the condition I would want it to be in if I was keeping it. My basic philosophy is that even for a second-hand purchase, guitars are expensive. You're talking several £100s for any form of Fender, and for that you want something which looks, plays and sounds as good as you expect it to be. And in my experience of buying and selling guitars over 40 years now and over 50 guitars, the reality is somewhat different sometimes. So I want to make sure that the guitars that I sell are fully cleaned, deep cleaned, all the electronics are sorted, they're cleaned out, they don't crackle, that they're properly set up, that they play well, that they're intonated, that the frets are good, and I put the effort into doing that. So what I do with Telecasters is probably a bit different from what I do with other guitars, because I treat them very much as a mechano set, and I enjoy building them, messing with them, modding them, and I currently have about 8 or 9 of them in various stages, most of which have been built from genuine Fender parts but bought individually. So I'll buy necks, I'll buy bodies, I'll put them together, I'll put in different pickups and those sorts of things. This one is factory standard. I bought it second hand in I think 2021. It has had different pickups in it for the past year or so, and it had a different wiring loom with a 4-way switch. That's now all been put back to standard with the original parts, and fully cleaned and inspected and sort of put back together. So it's mechanically and electrically it's good to go. What it needs now is the bodywork. I'm going to give it a good deep clean and polish, and the neck I'm going to check the frets. It's always played pretty well, it's a pretty low action. I haven't done any fret work on it. I'll just check whether there are any high frets which need a little bit of work on them before it goes out. I have rounded off the ends, which I do with all Fenders, all the Mexican Fenders anyway, just to make it more playable. So I'll check all that, and they'll do a full setup, and then it will be listed for sale. So start off with the neck. I mean, the key point about the neck is that you've got to have time spent on leveling all the frets to get it playing absolutely perfectly if you want a low action. It's how far do you go is the question. Fenders generally, I find, from the factory will have 1 or 2 high frets, which might take a bit of spot leveling just to make sure that they are at the same level as the other frets around them. I've bought brand new Fender necks from Mexico which have needed a full fret dress. I've bought other ones which have been absolutely perfect straight out of the box, so it's a little bit of a lottery. This one has always been fine. I haven't done anything dramatic to it. I think when I bought it I did what I always do, which is just to make sure that there's no sharp ends on the fret, so it's nice and comfortable to play. But I'm going to check that out, see if it needs anything, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so many of you are going to know about frets and what you're looking for, but fundamentally what you want to make sure is that whenever you fret a note, that all the frets from there to the bridge are slightly lower than it so that the note can ring cleanly. Now part of that comes from the height of the fret itself in relation to the other frets alongside it. Part of it comes from the amount of relief in the neck. So part of a setup is setting that neck relief. You need to always have a slight element of relief, which means that the saddles and where you're starting from on the neck when you fret it, there should always be a slight bow, which allows room for the string to vibrate. If you think about the string, it's fixed at either end, but it vibrates in the middle. So there's always a movement in the middle. Now, some people have got different preferences as to how much relief they want in a neck. I always just go with the factory spec, which allows for some and allows a reasonable amount of grip to get underneath the strings if you're going to bend notes, which I tend to do. But some people prefer it flatter because it can shred, which isn't something that I do, but you know, you can do that easier on a flatter surface neck and a straighter neck. So part of it is about preference, but the starting point for any of that is to have your frets in a good condition and level. So how do you check for levels with it? Basically, it's just about whether they rock. So all you're doing is you're going along the whole neck and then across each fret. And then what you're going to do is take a flat edge. This is a measure, it's also a perfectly straight edge. And you're looking to see any high fret when you put it in the middle. If it's high, it will rock on the neck, on the frets next to it. So if you put it across 3 frets at once and then check, there shouldn't be any movement. So those frets are okay, and then you move to the next one, and then when you get rocking, it's always the one in the middle which is slightly higher. And what I'm seeing here is that this fret is slightly higher because you can hear the knocking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm just going to mark that fret needs a bit of attention. Whether we need to level the whole thing or not depends on how many there are. If it's 2 or 3, I'll just spot level them. If it's more than that, then it's easier to actually just give the whole thing a very light leveling. The issue is that every time you level, you're taking metal out of the frets. So when you do that, you've only got a certain amount of metal in the frets themselves before it's going to need a refret. So don't level unnecessarily, is my view, because you're shortening the life of the frets. Yeah, so it's quite a few. So this is going to get a full level. It is a lot of work to do a full level crown polish, but it's worth it. I mean, it sets the guitar up the way it should be. It means you can set the action wherever you actually want it to be, with the minimum chance of actually getting any fret buzz. But not everybody does it, and not everybody needs to do it. I mean, it's personal preference. I mean, if you play with a reasonably high action or a medium action, it might well be that you never actually get any fret buzz because the action height is high. But I like to do it just to make sure that the guitar plays as well as it can do. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably some down here as well, but there's no point in checking, because if I know it needs 6, then I know it needs them all done. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to come back and show you how to do a fret level. There's a couple of ways that you can approach a Fender level. I tend to just whip the neck off, because that's actually the easiest way to protect the entire guitar. I mean, you're taking metal out of the fretboard. Those little bits of iron can get into the rest of the guitar. It's really important that you therefore protect it, particularly the pickups, which are magnetic and will attract all that. Certainly if you're doing a set neck guitar, then I always tape off the pickups, tape off the switches, and put cloths all over the rest of the finish. It's not going to go everywhere, it's not a particularly messy job, but you just want to do the most that you can to actually protect it. On a Fender, because they are basically planks with 4-bit bolts, I usually find it's easier just to actually take the neck off, put the guitar body to one side, and then you don't need to worry about any of that, because you know that it is that it's clean and safe. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now, a lot of people are horrified at the idea of taking the guitar apart and taking the neck off. But the key point is that's how it was designed. I mean, it was always designed by Leo Fender when he designed this, which is the first mass market successful electric guitar. He specifically designed it with in mind that the neck, rather than being subject to, you know, professional musicians having the guitar to go away and get refretted or have work done to it, that they could just swap the neck quickly and easily. And so, you know, it is designed that it will come apart. The other thing though is that it will always need a proper setup when you put it back together, because there'll be minute differences in the tension of the different screws, and whenever it comes apart, it goes back together, I always do a full setup. So that's a consideration whether you want to take the neck off doing this or not, but I'm going to do a setup in this before it goes anyway, so there's no reason not to. Okay, welcome back. So for those of you who were interested, you will have seen that I've just taken this neck through a full level, crown and polish. So there's a separate video for that, which if you're interested, please go and have a look at. But basically this is now ready to be demasked and then cleaned up, and then we'll get it all assembled back on the guitar. If it's something like this, which is basically a very new guitar and it hasn't been played that much, it's got plenty of years left in it yet. Damp cloth, clean it straight away, don't let the water sit, and that's all you need. And that then gives you the neck is done, ready to go. Okay, let's move on to the body then. You know, if there are any chips on it or marks on it, then I will list those so that people know what they're getting. I mean, second-hand guitars are second-hand guitars. You're not buying a new one, and they have been used and they have been played, so you expect some. So on this one, there's a tiny little, just a mark, it's not even a divot. It's like a little graze on the finish just there, which is quite common because this is the low horns where things sit. And there's just a couple of little scratches there. I can't even feel them with my finger, so they might actually polish out with a wax polish that comes next. Okay, so there we go, that is ready for waxing. Okay, so the next step is to give the body of the guitar a good 3 coats of wax. I don't know why I use 3, but I always do, just to build up some protection. And basically I use a guitar specific wax. I'm not going to say which one because nobody's endorsing me, but if you make wax and you want me to, then, you know, get in touch. But many people just use car wax, and I think there's pros and cons. So I'm no expert on detailing cars or any of those sorts of things. I know you can spend lots of money on different waxes and different polishes, but my understanding is that car waxes sometimes have things in them such as silicone, which you don't really want to get on a wooden product like a guitar, allegedly. I don't know. So I don't use them. I use a guitar specific one, and it's, you know, the basic process is like any other waxing: wipe it on, buff it off, and, you know, once it's clear and it goes shiny, then you're done. Okay, stringing up. So I use, just as a matter of course, I use Ernie ball, not for any reason other than that I always have done, and I find that I don't break them very often. They seem to last well. No endorsements, I don't get any money for it, but So anyone from Ernie Ball that wants to give me some cash for saying nice things about you, here I am. Okay, we're on. So I've strung it up. I haven't clipped them yet, just on the highly unlikely chance that anything is wrong and I need to take them off again. They're very hard to get right on again if you take them off and you've already clipped them. So I mean, generally I don't reuse strings under any circumstances other than if I've just put them on it, you know, literally 2 minutes ago. It's just not worth it. It's just the extra effort for the cost of a set of strings if you're doing anything that involves maintaining the guitar or doing anything significant. So I'm going to plug it in and tune it up, and then we can start doing the setup. There you go, trusty. Okay, so we have power, neck, bridge, volume. Yep, so all working as it should. Okay, so clip-on polychromatic tuner, the invention of the century as far as I'm concerned. Yep, that'll do. Okay, so we have tuning. So we need to do the neck relief, we need to do the intonation and the string height. I tend to do relief first, then string height, and then intonation. I don't know why, it's just what I do, always have done. So what I'm trying to do is to use the string as a straight edge between the ends of the neck to see what gap there is between the string, or the top of the fret and the string. So I tend to capo the first, I'll then fret the note at the body, which in this case is the 17th, and then check somewhere around the middle, which is usually the 7th or the 8th fret. And Fender specs are usually for 0.01 of an inch, for which I have a feeler gauge, and it is nothing more complicated than an automotive feeler gauge, which was a cheap crap one that fell apart, and therefore the actual gauge that I used, the 0.01, has come out, which is fine, that's what I want. And basically all you're looking to do is there, how much gap is there between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string? And the answer there is quite a lot. You give it a quarter turn back, and that should, it will have put it out of tune, which it has, yeah, it's raised it. Yep, so that's right now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the intonation. Now this guitar has been with me, it has been set up, and so it should be intonated, but the neck's been off, and it's a new set of strings. I mean, there isn't any magic to intonation, and there's a load of videos about it on YouTube, so you can find much better instruction on how to do it from there. But for me, the key is do it. The number of guitars that I've sort of come across where all the saddles are set in a straight line, or just it's never been touched, and of course it doesn't play in tune at that point when you go up and down the neck. So you'll know the basics of it, I'm sure, but what you're trying to do is make sure that for each string, the centre of the string where it vibrates is effectively over the 12th fret. And the way that the way that I do it, the traditional way to do it, is by checking that the harmonic when you play the 12th fret, or just above the 12th fret, played like that, is in tune with the fretted note, and that sounds right. The key to it is, one, do it in a playing position, because otherwise gravity is going to move your neck up and down if you do it vertically. If you intonate it like that, you're actually shortening the strings because the weight of the guitar is influencing it. So do it that way, and then the second one is make sure you are perfectly in tune for each string as you intonate it. So for the E, so that's in tune. that's the harmonic, that therefore is in tune, and the fretted note. Yep, it's just a wee touch sharp. So the rule on intonation is, the way I remember which way to go is shorter, flatter. So shorter and flatter are the same thing. So if your fretted note is flatter than your played note, then you need to shorten the string, and that means move it forward. In this case, it is slightly sharp, so it needs to come back. So I'm just going to bring it back by tightening it. So if you're tightening it, detune it a little bit to give it some give, and then clockwise, like any screw, will move it backwards because it tightens it. So then you bring it back up to pitch. Always tune up the way to pitch. I'm sure you know that. Yeah, that's spot on now. So that was the E, A, yep, yep, yep. So the rest of it is all spot on. Obviously, if it's the Telecaster, the plug is in the bottom, so that's why I take it and do it acoustically, but you can probably hear that was each of those notes was in tune. So that's now fully intonated, and that's another step done. Okay, so I'm going to go with factory specs 4/64 across the piece. I mean, you probably know this, but basically what you're looking for is use some form of ruler, and then you're looking to measure the distance between the top of the fret at the 13th fret and the bottom of the string, and you adjust the height with the tiny little saddles down here at the bridge, which have got Allen screws in them. This one is a touch high, so I'm just going to drop it a little bit. Try and keep the saddle level when you do this, so that it's holding the string at the right level. Right, that's fine. And then, yep, that's a little bit higher on the treble side as well. So down we come. A little bit more. And as with most things on a guitar, there's a million ways to do this. So that's about 3.5 64ths. So that's fine. And the other thing that you need to set is the action of the strings in the middle. Now, because it's a 9.5 radius neck, then the way I do it is I use a radius key, which has got one set for 9.5. And then I'm basically looking to see whether all of the strings touch it or not, because what we want is for all the strings to be in a radius which matches the neck so that they're the same height off. And the way to do it is just the way I do it is rest it lightly on the strings, depress them, and see whether they hit it when they come back up again. So that's now 5 and needs to come up here at that end as well. The other thing with the telly, because it's 3, is that you want to try to make it as flat, as level as possible, which that is. And then let's just bring up these ones. Yeah, they've got a fair bit to go. Bring them up. Smaller screwdriver required for the neck pickup on a telly. Don't know why, that's just the way it is. Yeah. Five and 4. Okay, let's give that a go. It should sound, yeah, sounds fuller. And that's the telly. So that's a complete setup done, and the guitar is now ready to go out. So what I'm going to do now is just give it a wipe down, and then I'm going to put it in its case, and I'm going to list it, and then when I sell it I will contact the individual and I will check what specs they want to set up to and make any adjustments if they want the action a little bit lower, because you know, it's easy for me to do that before dispatch, and then somebody's going to get a very nice, shiny, well set up, beautifully finished new guitar. It will get 2 more coats of wax on it before I dispatch, so that it's all perfect. But this is now in better shape, better setup, and better fretwork than it left the factory. It's pretty much immaculate, and that's what I do with the guitars that I sell. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it informative. If it made you shout at the screen, then please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you back in the shack next time.